Welcome back to Angela's Craft Room, independent stamping up demonstrator in Australia. Today I'm coming to you with a vertical screen card. I have made them in the horizontal as well, but today we're just going to do a vertical screen card. This is a really good way to use up your scraps pieces of paper. Now you don't have to use designer series paper, you can use cardstock. You might have some embossed cardstock that you want to use up. It's just a really good way to use up your scrap pieces of paper, and it does make the card look very effective. So to start with, what we need 4 pieces. I've gone just with some designer series paper today. So we need 4 pieces measuring 1.5 inch by 4 inches, and we're going to cut those diagonally. Now I have pre-cut 3 diagonally already just to save some time, so I'll just bring that in so you can see. Now I'm just going to put that piece in the track at the point and bring that down and just simply cut it diagonally. So you need to do that with all 4 pieces. So we've got that done. Then you need a piece of cardstock which measures 5 inches by 2 3/4 inches. Now it doesn't have to be white because you're going to cover that completely with your paper. So if you've got a scrap piece of any colour at all, you can use. Now the most important thing is you need to find the centre point. So that's where we're going to start from. So I just put a little mark there, a little mark there. So this is 5 inches long, so 2.5 inches is halfway. But how I find the halfway mark is I just line it up on my grid paper, and that's the most easiest way I've found to do it. So I would advise you use a glue stick and then just literally cover this whole piece with glue stick, because using the snail it does take up a lot, but I don't have any glue stick at the moment, so just got to make sure that it's really covered. Okay, so what I like to do is I've cut them diagonally, so I'm just going to take these pieces first. So my first piece, let's bring that down so you can see. So that's what I'm using. So I'll just put them to the side. So just lining it up on those 2 pen marks I've made, and make sure your point is going to go down each time. You don't want the point down and then the next piece the point up here. The point has to always be to the bottom, and as you go along just make sure, I mean your point only has to be just over the bottom, so this, because this part up here needs to be completely covered. So I just find I just bunt it up against there with the point on the bottom. And my next piece. Because if you don't have the point just over the end, you're going to end up not covering the top of the card and we need the whole card to be covered. So just my last piece on this side. It's getting a bit sticky. And you can see that that's not going to completely cover my corner, but that's alright. There's a trick to, actually it might, if I just pull it down a bit it will. So there. Now we're going to use the other side, and still with the point at the bottom. And just put it, I just like to put the edge down so I know that I'm getting it really snug and there's not going to be any gaps left there. And next piece. And my very last piece. I know it's looking pretty messy, isn't it? But just got to make sure you cover that whole piece. So then what we're going to do is turn it over, and we're just going to simply trim off from the back. I find the Stampin' Up paper snips are really good for this. They're nice and sharp. Try not to cut into the cardstock. Then we're just going to cut along the bottom. But we've all got heaps of scraps at home, and this is just a great way to use them up. Get that piece off. But as I said, you're better off using a glue stick, because you're just going to go through so much snail adhesive doing it this way. I'll just get all those scraps out the way for you. And that's quite effective how it's come out with all those different patterns. So now what we need to do, we need to have a panel which measures 5 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and we're just going to glue that to the top there. So I've got all the points coming down. So we're just going to glue that onto there. I take my piece of 5 1/4 by 4 1/4 mint macaron, and all my points are coming down. I mean, it's up to you which way. You could even go the other way, but the ideal is of the sunburst, so we'll go this way. And I just eyeball it using my grid paper, try and get it as even as I can, straight, looking at the sides, and just popping that onto there. So that's the front coming together. Then I'm going to take a piece of white organza ribbon and just pop it across there. Sorry, I did that out of camera. All I did was add some adhesive onto my white organza ribbon, and I'm just going to bunt that up, right up to the edge, like that. Turn it over and just stick it down, because you're not going to see this because this is going to be all glued down. And if you wanted to, like I did on the other card, now would be the time to put your brad in, like make a pokey hole and put your brad in there. Then what I've done, because I'm going to put a little sentiment down here, just zoom it out a little bit for you. I'm going to put a sentiment down there, so I've just got a piece of scrap mint macaron and a piece of very vanilla, and I've already stamped my sentiment on there to save a bit of time. And then I'm just going to run the snail along there. Just line it up on my grid paper. Just eyeball it. So it goes down like that. Now you can just glue it straight down like that. I do it at the bottom so it's revealing the nice white organza ribbon, or you could even put some dimensionals under there if you like, just to pop it up, but I'm just going to stick this one down this time, just lining it up on my grid paper. Now this is the same length as that, so it's just eyeballing it up. Then I'm not sure if I want to put these on the side, whether they're going to be too bulky. Yep. I'll just grab some of my fine tip glue and just pop it on there. Hold it for a couple of seconds. It sticks quite well because I'm just doing it on the cardstock. It doesn't stick very well on the lace, so I would just stick it directly on the cardstock. As you can see, I'm hardly putting any glue on there. And I'm just going to hold that down in place for a minute. Stick that, make sure that's right down, and you can just see the lace there. Then all we need to do then is bring in our card that we're going to mat it on, which is 8.5. It's very vanilla, 8.5 by 5.5, and then scored at 4.25. And we're just going to pop it on there. So it just needs, if I'd been smart I should have, because I'm going to have those blossom accents that I'm trying to glue underneath. And one's come off. That's alright, we can fix that. Just hold it down. Then just popping my card base on my grid paper again. I love using the grid paper, it just makes it easy to line up. And as I say, if you use glue stick to do this technique, because it's just stuck a little bit to there. So there you have your vertical sunburst card, which is quite effective for using up all those scraps. And this is the one I did earlier using the Timeless Elegance designer series paper that I had a few scraps lying around. And this designer series paper here is Birthday Bouquet from the 2016 Occasions catalogue, which is ending in May. So if you want some of those designer series papers, you know, you've got to the end of the May to get those. So I hope you'll give this a try, using up all your scraps